Welcome to the Crystal Coach Show with me, your host, Anahata, helping you live every day with clarity, guidance, and practical wisdom. Are you feeling overwhelmed, anxious, maybe disconnected? Do you ever feel like you don't know how to live a life of peace and joy? I am Anahata Roach, the Crystal Coach, and during this show, we channel divine wisdom through stories of service, spirituality, and stones for self-care. The Crystal Coach Show leaves you with a feeling of connection and the clarity it takes towards becoming the best version of yourself as you hear from thought leaders and many others to help you ignite the crystalline nature of who you really are. Stay tuned. The Crystal Coach Show starts now. Hello and welcome to the Crystal Coach Show. I'm your host, Anahata, and today we're just really going to talk about all the ways stress can bother us and how can we detach from that. And when I say detach, I mean we've got this current of stress that just flows through our everyday lives most days, right? It keeps us kind of in this fight or flight mode, and it really just leaches out and robs us of our energy and our health. So why have we formed such an attachment to being in this stress mode? How do we keep stress at a distance while navigating our life, our careers, our families, our, commuting, go back and forth, our volunteer activities? Anything, other obligations. How do we really manage the stress in our lives? The there's attachments to that. And when I say attachments, I mean like there might be some programming emotionally that you've got around perfectionism or judgment from others, or just plain old stories that you've made up in your head that cause us to take action that puts us in a state of stress. It's like, I must be in a state of stress to achieve, right? That's no, you don't need to be in a state of stress to achieve. Sometimes stress is helpful. Right? If you're the whole fight or flight, if you're really in a life-threatening situation, it's very useful. But if you're just trying to do your job and showing up every day, as in whatever roles that you play every day, what does it take to let go of that, to unplug from that attachment that causes the stress to come up and be prevalent? The cortisol, the adrenaline, the real heart stressors. They don't call it stress for nothing, babies. So I wanted to first address, because for women, this is really a big issue. And I know it has been for me personally. And that is this program around the need to be perfect. Perfectionism. Let's give ourselves a break just right off the top right here. In this reality, there's nothing perfect except the blueprint of the divine for our bodies and this, in nature. That's perfect. But imperfection comes because there's other energies that involve the growth process. Right? So when I grew up, I lived, I think I'm pretty sure I've said this before. I grew up a kind of an alcoholic household. It wasn't kind of. My father was a what do you call it? Working alcoholic, functioning alcoholic. And he would get up and go to work every day, but he would come home and drink himself until he passed out. So there was a dynamic in my household that was very codependent around daddy and his moods and what we could and couldn't do, right? That would maybe make him frustrated or angry. And so for me, being the eldest child, I took it upon myself to have this program that I just needed everything that I did to be perfect. And when it did not go perfectly, it was crushing, absolutely crushing. But the need for that perfection, what just drove me. And I was in a state of stress a lot. I mean, I was in a state of stress through my college years. I was in a state of stress in my first, kind of job, in any kind of job. I was in a state of stress because I felt like I had to be perfect. And I know there's lots of other, I've seen them in my clients, I've seen them in friends. It just, it's the very nature of women to feel that unless it's perfect, it's not worth doing. So, and okay, there's a little saying that I think my grandmother used to say to me is, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. And I agree. I mean, you don't want to just kind of phone it in or slop it around. But by the same token, you don't want to go all the other way and be completely paranoid about any flaw, any single missed detail, right? Um, I have a little story to tell you about perfectionism that has really helped me. Um, I was I was on my own. It was after my divorce. I was on my own. I was in my own house. That house was in my name, and I was hosting my very first dinner party, like very first grown up dinner party with the silver and the china and the crystal, all the stuff that you get, right? But you never use. Well, I decided I was going to use it. So I invited some colleagues from work to have dinner with us, with me. And um, so I had planned this down to a T. I had already set the table like 2 days before. I had been cleaning my house, in stages, right? And um, it was I was fixing a meal that was deliberately to be served. It was during the summer, so it was deliberately to be served at room temperature. It didn't have to be hot, so that I didn't have to worry about everything coming out at the same time, which was a little bit of a stress reliever. Yeah. But I was still so attached to having everything on my list checked off that I put myself in this real state of stress. Well, I was one of the last things I was doing was making some strawberry soup. I don't know if you've ever had chilled strawberry soup, but it was actually the first time I'd ever made it. Why do we do this to ourselves? But at any rate, I had, like 2 pounds or whatever. I mean, a lot of strawberries that I had hulled and washed and all that, and then cut up. And then I was cooking them with this tapioca type of mixture. It was to thicken it, right? And it had just started cooking, and the electricity went out in my home. Um, Sometimes in that place where I lived, one side of the street would have electricity and the other side of the street would not. Well, that day, my side of the street would not have electricity. How lovely. So I did notice that the other across the street did seem to have lights on and such. So I called my friend, my neighbor from across the street, and I said, can I please use your stove to finish cooking this soup that I'm making? And she said, sure, come on over. Um, so I went over and I finished cooking my soup, and was so happy. I was like, oh, well, crisis over. I've still got plenty of time. And so I've got this big container of, like a kettle of this soup, hot soup. And, it had to be chilled, right? So I'm bringing it home, and I'm crossing the street, and I'm going up the steps to my house. I'm at, like from the sidewalk to the front yard was about 3, 4 steps. And then there was a couple of 3 steps to the porch. But anyway, I had mowed the yard a couple of days before, and I'm looking at the yard, and I'm looking and, just kind of doing a mental note about what else I needed to get done. And I'm walking up the stairs, and I wasn't in my body. I was projecting ahead. I wasn't paying attention to where my feet were. And I tripped up the steps and I fell. And I was like, those Charmin commercials or whatever, that toilet paper, the picker up, or the Bounty commercials, whatever, that paper towel, you see the person going, no, in slow motion. That's me. I'm falling, and I've got this kettle, this hot soup, and I'm like, no. And I was going to do everything in my power to save that. So I kind of come down pretty much on my elbow arms, trying to save and cushion that from spilling. And for the most part, I did. I landed with that thing down, but the force of me falling popped the top off, the lid off, and plop, I had searing hot, sticky, sugary substance on my wrist, and it immediately gave me second-degree burns, probably third. I remember screaming. Anyway, I went inside. I plunged my hands into the water I'd been using for hulling the strawberries, and I'm howling. I am on my own. I'm in my 20s. I'm like, no, actually, I was in my early 30s. And all of a sudden, I wanted my mommy. I was like, whoa. Well, my neighbor across the street, her husband was outside, and he heard me. He hadn't seen me fall, but he heard me screaming, and he went in and he told Penny, and she said, go see what's going on. And then they saw this red stuff on the floor. They went, oh my God, it's blood. Well, anyway, she comes over, and I'm screaming and hollering. She's, I'm like, this can't happen to me. I've got this big party and blah, 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 blah. And she's like, what's left to do? I'm like, I have to take the garbage out. I have to do the vacuuming. I still have these things to do. I can't do this. She was from Boston, and she had this lovely Boston accent. She says, Anna, take your garbage and put it in the cellar. No one will know. No one will see. Just put it in the cellar. That has been one of my mantras for reducing stress around perfectionism. No one has to see it. If you put it in the closet, you put it in the basement, whatever. If you haven't vacuumed your rug and there's a couple of 3 little spots, what the heck? Nobody's going to know. Pay attention to that, because you've got this beautiful setting on your table. Everybody's coming in going, wow, it looks like, this beautiful table setting in a department store. That's what they're looking at. They're not looking at the fact that there might be some dust on the furniture, or that the rugs aren't perfectly vacuumed, right? Or that the garbage, which is in a can, is not taken out. So I wanted to share that with you, because I think it's funny that if you just, something that simple can be such an aha, that, you're thinking about all the garbage that you've got to do. And does it really matter? I mean, honestly, people are dealing with their own garbage. They're too busy looking at theirs to really notice yours, right? When we come back, I'm going to talk about how judgment from others can cause attachments, and how we create some stories. But I'm just going to take a real short break and let you kind of think about putting your garbage in the cellar. We'll be back. Hi, and welcome back to the Crystal Coach Show with me, your host, Anahata. We've been talking about detaching from stress, and I've just shared a story about putting your garbage in the cellar. I didn't close that story. It has a happy ending, actually. My friend helped me bandage up my wound, and I actually was able to have the dinner party and it went off, even though I was in a lot of pain, it went off just as I had hoped it would. Everybody had a good time. We, had everybody enjoyed their meal. And so, all's well that ends well. But how many ways can we apply that metaphor of putting your garbage in the cellar so that you can be comfortable, you can detach from that need to have every single thing on your list checked off before you go to sleep that night or before anything happens, right? Because it's the little bitty tiny things are not going to go noticed as much as the big things, right? So be kinder to yourself and see if you can use that metaphor to help you take a deep breath and let go of that need to have everything on your list done. Okay. So now I want to talk about judgment. We have an attachment to what others may think of us. And that is also a program that we're given probably as a child. And comparing, we always compare ourselves to other people. One of the wise things my mom said to me years ago was, honey, there's going to always be people who are above you and people who are below you. So don't worry about it. At the time, it didn't really make any sense to me. I was like, well, yeah, but what does that have to do with the fact that I want the same genes as my friend? But it has served me in adulthood very well. I wanted to touch on the workplace kind of culture and expectations, especially in corporate. There's, women especially have this fear of judgment and this, this kind of flows from perfectionism into judgment, because in a workplace environment, there's this need to overdo, to do more than our male colleagues, because we are trying to be seen, we're trying to be heard, we're trying to make an impression. And so that drives the stress related work activity that may or may not even be what we need to be doing. I a couple of episodes ago, I had a guest who was an expert in imposter syndrome, and she stated she had all kinds of really interesting research and study data, but she in talking about perfectionism or judgment, she said, one of the things that women will do, and this has been proven in research, women will wait until if they see a job posting and they look at the requirements, if they don't have 100% of all of those requirements, they won't ever even apply for it. They're like, oh, well, that's beyond what I can do. Not really considering that you can learn on the job, that if you have the core strengths and abilities, that other things can be learned while you're doing it. But we're in this program that says, oh, I would be, I couldn't be faking it. I have to be able to do it. So I have to be an expert in all of these areas of the requirements before I could even apply for the job. And that is like such a limiting belief that you're not qualified unless you have 100%. Do you know that the men, our male colleagues, have no problem applying for a job that they're not 100% qualified for? No problem. They will apply for it if they have 60 to 70% of it, but not 100. So women in the corporate world, like I used to be, let it go. Let it go. You don't need to worry about 100%. If that's something that is a direction that you think you want to go in, or you feel like that's the next step in the next level that you want to be at, go for it. Go for it. You'll learn on the job. It's okay. Don't stress yourself out trying to get get at someplace 100%, right? It's just cutting off your opportunities before you can even apply for them. Okay. Judgment. Yeah. So letting go of what you think others might think of you. I mean, that inner critic is always telling us we're not good enough and we're not, um, you know, we're not dressed right. We're not dressed appropriately. Our hair's mess. We don't have the right makeup on. We've got too much makeup on. We don't have enough makeup on. I'm just talking women and people who identify as women here. But we just are just too hard on ourselves. That's just really the God's truth. We are just too hard on ourselves. And when, we're expecting everybody else to be the same, have the same kind of level of criticism about us. No. You tell that inner critic to go take a seat in the throne room, because that's ego. And ego doesn't need to be up in your mind. It needs to be running the body. It's kingdom, it's queendom, whatever is the body. That's all it's got. It was created to tell the spirit within, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, I'm sleepy, I'm hurt, whatever. I'm hot, I'm cold, whatever. Yeah. So you just need to rein in that inner critic and find that peace in yourself, that trust that you've prepared, you've done what you can, and allow the universe to flow through you and really kind of be there so that you can show up as your full authentic self. I mean, I'm going to tell you this right now. In preparing for today's podcast, I had my little triggers come up, so the stressors come up, but I have totally surrendered to whatever needs to come through today. For those that are watching live and are listening to this later, it's whatever. I want to be in a place where whatever needs to come through, whatever needs to be heard, can be heard. And I'm so very grateful to be in this place and on this channel that I can share this with you. How many of us have stories that we make up about ourselves? About having an expectation of an outcome, for example. We'll make up a dialogue, right? That will say, this is going to happen, and then I'll say that, and then this person will say that, and then we'll do this, and the outcome will be this. And then we get like emotionally attached to it happening that way. As kids we do, for sure, and then we get all disappointed. I wanted to go. It's true. Even as adults, we kind of have that same kind of childlike disappointment come up when we have an expectation that's not met. Here's a concept, one that I learned. What if you let go of your expectation of an outcome? What if you could let it go? What freedom you would have. No more disappointments. No more disappointments. You just say, whatever it happens, happens. Whatever's in the highest and best good, I'm here for that. I don't need to know exactly how it's going to unfold. I'm going to be okay with however it happens, whether I get the job or I don't get the job. Okay? So I was on a trip with my husband to the Grand Canyon, and we were going both rims, the South Rim and the North Rim. We started at the South Rim when it's really, really hot. And then we were driving to the North Rim, which is, a good day's drive. And it goes up the elevation. So it's really cold when you get there. But we had not made reservations for overnight. We decided it was more than a day's drive, and we were going to stay overnight someplace. And we hadn't made reservations. And, I could have been just like, beside myself. But here we were out in God's country, and I had a cell signal. I couldn't believe it, but there was a cell signal. And I went online with my phone and found a place that was near the North Rim, and we stayed there. And it was like, I just jumped up and down when my husband thought I was crazy. I said, do you know how freeing it is to not have any expectations? And he's like, yeah, fine, honey. Okay. But anyway, that was a turning point for me, letting go of an attachment to a story about how things are going to go. And that's even the other way around. I mean, some people just hold this frequency that I'm like Eeyore, nothing ever happens right for me. I'm never going to get that. It's bad. Listen, that's just putting the frequency of it's not going to happen in your way. So if you're just like, okay, I've done what I could, whatever's going to happen will happen, and let it go and see what happens. If you're asking for whatever to come to you in your highest and best good, then it will. And it doesn't have to be scripted by you. If you're asking for cooperation with the conscious part of you that's connected to all there is, then stay there. You don't have to get in this dense 3D energy about who said what to whom and when it was going to happen, right? You don't even need to know the how. Yeah, I've talked for enough. Let's take a break. When we come back, I'll talk about some stones that you can use to help release stress and work with. Okay? We'll be right back. Hi there. Welcome back to the Crystal Coach Show. I'm Anahata Roach, your host, and we are now going to go to my favorite part of every podcast, which is stones for self-care. The part that I just kind of pick out some random stones that I think would be very helpful if you're looking to work with or release the stress that you're keeping in your body. And that these stones really are wonderful hard worker frequencies that help you to detach, right? There's also mindfulness. You can breathe, you can do a lot of things, meditate, but keeping a stone in your pocket that helps relax you and release stress, what harm would it do? What harm would it do, right? What harm would it do? Keeping just one or two things. I didn't even put any rocks in my bra today. I forgot. I do have on a necklace of rhodochrosite, which is the healing of the inner child, all the fears of the inner child. That's probably a good one if you're looking for fears of perfectionism, for sure, or judgment, release of stress around being rejected. My mother used to say, and when she got old enough, she'd go, honey, I don't care what other people think about me. Well, I'm about that age when she said that to me, and I think she makes sense. It's nobody else's business. I mean, it's not my business what your opinion of me is. It's really, if you think about that, if you go about your day looking at somebody who's looking at you in a judging way, maybe you're perceiving that they're looking at you in a judging way, and you just shrug it off. Your opinion of me is none of my business. I know I'm enough. I know I have it together. I know I add value. Okay. Now, the first stone I wanted to show you is green apatite, apatite, apatite. It helps in recovery following stress-related illness, like heart surgery, heart disease, heart attack, all things heart. It's especially good if the stress comes from a fear-based scarcity, mindfulness, like there's never enough, there's never enough. Well, green apatite in your pocket can help you. I am more than enough. I have enough. It's all good, right? So I love that what it does is help open up kind of like a channel of energy that helps you feel gratitude about your life, your breath, about love. And that gratitude then opens up the whole flow for abundance, financial abundance. If you want, it allows you to see that money is a type of energy and that it's a symbol of energy exchange. So when you look at money as energy, it takes kind of like the pressure off of looking at it as there's not enough. It's in the flow. There's always more. There's in the flow. So manifesting abundance can actually be joyful. Woo! Green appetite. Another one, I mean, I just picked out, and just like every one of them are like, helps reduce stress, helps reduce stress. Yes, 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 I know. Sometimes, I have to look up because I work with these every day and I just put them on clients when, the client's bodies ask for it. I know that I reach for whatever I need, and I don't necessarily need to know why, but it's always affirming when I do, because ocean jasper was another one that I picked up. It's such a cool looking stone. It's got a lot of white chalcedony, it's got green and red, and it usually has some circles and swirls in it. It's just really cool. This is all about relieving stress. So ocean jasper, if you think about just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to sink into the ocean right now, and I'm just going to let the waves of peace and easiness kind of rush over me, and then that heart rate will go down. You can just feel the calmingness of that. It's almost like unscrewing a pressure valve and just like letting all of that steam out, and just being in the current in the waves of the ocean, and just feeling that really beautiful flow and that buoyancy that just kind of takes the heaviness off. So that's ocean jasper. Another one is smithsonite. Smith, Smith, Sonite, smithsonite. It comes in all kinds of different colors. This one's purple, but it's wonderful for relieving stress, and especially works on emotional healing and just kind of making the heart happy. Yeah, because the number one place where stress is really affecting us physically is in the heart, right? We have pink tourmaline. Pink tourmaline is a wonderful, it's also known as rubellite. This is rubellite, which is more of a coarse, not gem quality form of pink tourmaline. But this is all about inner peace. So having a piece of pink tourmaline or rubellite in your pocket or in your hand or just on your desk, you can just reach for it and hold it and just breathe. And you will find that helps reduce that heart rate, reduce that level of that tension that's just incredibly overwhelming sometimes. And it just, if you feel like that all the time, ladies especially, and anyone else who's listening, you are going to burn yourself out. Boop. Don't burn out. Get some pink tourmaline. Another one. This is in the shape of a heart. This is also purple. This is one of my favorite stones, and I've recommended this before. But lepidolite is it has lithium in it, and lithium used to be used back in the day as in a drought form to control, well, actually as a sedative. So it's just a really very, you talk about calming. Putting a piece of lepidolite under your pillow at night, wow, the frequency of that is going to work on your mind, and just like if you haven't been able to sleep, this is a good sleep aid without having to take anything. That reminds me of a meme I saw. It's like, what do you call when you can't sleep at night and you get really, really hungry and you have to get up and eat? Insomnia. Never mind. It's a bad joke. Last one, no, it's not the last. Penultimate one is green calcite, not green. I said it twice. It's just one green calcite. And this is just another wonderful heart-related stress reliever. It comes in all kinds of shapes and forms. This one is like a little finger, like a little trigger. I used it a lot in body work that I do for my clients that are calling for that, because it's just, you can almost like draw stress relief on the body and it will go, ah. So I love this green calcite. It's fun. Last but not least, it's the only one that's dark, but this is called Epidote, Epidote, or it could be Epidot, but I'll call it Epidote. And it's all about helping you let go of that's negativity in your thoughts. You know, if you're just constantly having your mind just go negative, go Eeyore on you, Epidote, actually it looks black, but actually in some light it looks green. So there's that whole heart green thing again. So it's funny, I have 3 green ones, 3 kind of pinky purpley ones, and then one that's kind of combined with the ocean jasper. But so the Epidote is just really great frequency for helping your mind to let go of all of those negative Nancy kind of thoughts that come up. And I use it a lot. So if you feel called to work with me, I can be found at thecrystalcoach.com, and I have all kinds of opportunities to be of service for you. I have this emotional program clearing opportunity that is amazing. And all of those programs that I was telling you about, the perfectionism and all this other stuff that you carry with you, it helps you to let go of those things so that you can not care anymore. But if you are if you are interested in body work or energy work, I do remote energy work as well. I also do intuitive readings with crystal cards. So I'm reading the energies and the frequencies of stones and crystals and the elements to kind of give you some guidance, clarity, and more information. So I also offer that online. So if you'd like to learn more about working with me, you can go to crystalcoach.com, thecrystalcoach.com. There's always a "the" there. Thecrystalcoach.com, or you can send me an email at mycrystalcoach@gmail.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and join us the first and third Mondays of every month on The Crystal Coach Show. Bye for now. You have been listening to The Crystal Coach Show, helping you live every day with clarity, guidance, and practical wisdom. With me, your host, Anahata. Tune in every first and third Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on transformationtalkradio.com, where we channel divine wisdom through stories of service, spirituality, and stones for self-care. Feel connected and reside in the vibration of love on The Crystal Coach Show. For more information and to become the best version of yourself, visit thecrystalcoach.com. That's thecrystalcoach.com. See you next time.